right, so there's one thing that I really, really want to see this coming season. I think it will be one of the best storylines in the NBA over the last couple of seasons. And I want to see a John Morant MVP run. It's got to happen at this point. And his MVP run would be so significant because of how bad things have been the last couple of seasons. We all know Ja's gotten into a ton of trouble over the last couple of years, even when he came back last season after getting in trouble. Coming off of that suspension, he gets hurt. But remember, like that span of games he had before he got hurt? He was off the chain. John Morant has been off the chain for his entire NBA career. Since the day he stepped onto an NBA court, he was the guy, right? I always talk about this with the Grizzlies, and this is something that people don't really talk about and realize enough. They were supposed to be rebuilding when they got John Morant. They moved out Mike Conley. That was the official end to the Grind City era of Grizzlies basketball. They drafted John Morant. They were supposed to be rebuilding. Ja's first season, before the bubble and everything like that, they were good enough and they were on pace to be a playoff team. Then they get into the bubble and they end up losing in like the first play-in tournament-esque game to the Portland Trailblazers and just missed the playoffs. But they were literally right there. He accelerated their development far quicker than what they thought, right? Like, as I said, they were supposed to be rebuilding, and there they were as a legitimate threat in the Western Conference. And when Ja's been healthy over the last couple of seasons, they've been consistently good enough. No, they haven't been to the West Finals just yet, but they've always been like almost a second round team, which is pretty good for a team that's still trying to develop into a consistent contender. Give Ja a ton of credit for that. Also give credit to Taylor Jenkins, Jaren Jackson, the development of Desmond Bane into an all-star caliber player. Give those guys credit as well, but John Morant has been so good on the basketball court since day one. I remember the first time I watched Ja was in college, watching him play, I think against Florida State. It was Murray State versus Florida State, first round of the NCAA tournament. I heard the hype for him, hadn't watched him just yet, saw the highlights, and I was never so reassured about a player's talent until then, right? You heard the stuff about John Morant and what he was doing playing in the smaller conference that he was playing in. Then he gets to that NCAA tournament stage, and I think it was just 2 games. They lost in the second round, but he put on an absolute show. He was undeniably the best point guard in college basketball. Just a great combination of elite passing ability and also ridiculous level athleticism and also really good ability to kind of finish within the paint. He was like a Derrick Rose with maybe a more aesthetically pleasing approach to the game. The passes, the dunks looked a little bit more graceful. Ja was the answer, man. He was a cheat code, and to see him translate all of that into the league immediately, it was something. Nothing's better than seeing a highly touted draft prospect actually perform at a high level. Then, obviously, with Ja, as we know, there was the off-the-court stuff, got into a ton of trouble, and here we are now, kind of in the aftermath of it. So I think Ja has a really good chance to make an MVP run. If you look at the Grizzlies roster, they are primed to be really, really good in the Western Conference. Desmond Bane, Jaren Jackson, Vince Young, who was really good last season for this team. Also, Gigi Jackson, who was amazing in his rookie season. So many really good players on this roster. We've seen them be really good. I even mentioned Marcus Smart, who's one of the best defensive players in the entire game. Think about how good they were before the John Morant injury situation and also the suspension, and think about how much better they got on paper now. They're going to be a major threat, and having a team that is a contender is key behind being a league MVP contender. Every single year, if you want to be an MVP contender, you have to be on a really good team. There has been one time where there is an exception that I can remember, and that was Russell Westbrook in 2017. The Thunder weren't getting anywhere out of the first round of the playoffs, and that got proven to be true as they lost in the first round to the Rockets. But he was so damn good that year, you couldn't give anybody else that award but him. But usually to be an MVP, you have to be on a contender. Right now, if I look at the scope of the Western Conference, the Grizzlies are right there. They really, really are, right? You'd have to really explain to me how the Grizzlies would not be considered a legitimate contender given their history when they're healthy and the additions they made on top of all of that. So Ja has that behind him and also a playing style that the NBA needs. I say this all the time. There is no active face of the NBA right now. They're trying to make it Anthony Edwards. There's also Nikola Jokic who's in that conversation. To be honest, I think he's kind of tough to sell as the face of the NBA. There's also Luka, right? There are a lot of guys in that mix. Ja Morant and Anthony Edwards, to me, are like those guys that I think would absolutely be perfect. Their game is so aesthetically pleasing. They have a great attitude about them. Like, remember how much Anthony Edwards and how entertaining he was in the playoffs just last season. That's what Ja was doing a couple of years ago when they were going at it against Steph Curry and the Warriors. Ja's right there in that face of the league conversation. And if he's able to recover and jump right back in that conversation and make that MVP run, it's going to be one of the best storylines in a long time. A guy who was kind of looked down upon, who had a bit of a downfall. A lot of people were concerned about his future in the league, comes back, leads his team to championship contention, and he is right there in the MVP mix. What else would be a better story, a better storyline? I think we've been waiting for like a really, really good MVP storyline for a minute. Like, yeah, there have been guys who are good enough to win it, but the stories haven't been that great. I wasn't captivated enough by him. Like, if I go looking back at like Derrick Rose, that was a really good MVP storyline, right? He was the hometown kid. He was in, I think, his second or third season and all of that. Perfect MVP storyline. Russell Westbrook, 2017. Your best friend, I think, I'm not sure about their relationship, but your teammate and a guy you had a great chemistry with in Kevin Durant leaves to go join the team that beat him in the Western Conference Finals. You go off the next season and average a triple-double right when everybody was saying, oh, Russ finna average triple-double. Great storyline. The last couple of MVPs, yeah, those guys have been great, but I wasn't really feeling it, right? Like, if I go look at Jokic's MVP awards, yes, Jokic deserved it because of his play, but I wasn't really feeling the storyline just that much. SGA won it, or excuse me, not SGA. He didn't win it. Jokic won it this past season. Again, wasn't really feeling it. If SGA would have won it, that would have been a good conversation and a good storyline as a young guy leading a team who exceeded expectations to the first seed in the Western Conference. That would have been a really good storyline. But like the last couple, I'm not really feeling those storylines. Ja's MVP run, if it happens this coming season, and I think he has every reason to make it happen, would be one of the best MVP storylines we have seen over the last couple of years and really in NBA history. He's supposed to be on the decline. He's supposed to be on the downfall. Everybody was worried about his fall from grace. Everybody was worried about his future in the NBA. Think about if he's able to come back, lead the Grizzlies to contention, and also come right back and be that guy. We always have these debates also about who the best point guard in the NBA is. Ja Morant is right well within that conversation. He simply is. If we look at his production and all of those things, Ja has a compelling argument for being that next up best point guard in the league still once Steph Curry kind of nears the end of his career. Not that I'm rushing Steph Curry's career, but I think Ja is well within that conversation. So I really hope that happens because, again, I've been waiting for like a really juicy MVP storyline. We haven't had it in a minute. As I said, I haven't been super captivated by an MVP award since Russell Westbrook. And since then, there have been great guys, but again, I wasn't really captivated by those storylines. Ja has a real chance to make that happen this coming season. The Grizzlies have to stay healthy. He has to stay healthy. He has to stay available. But when he's on the court, too, another unique thing about Ja is you can say everything you want about him off the court. But on the court, great leader, right? Great dude to have out there. He's kind of like Iverson, where you can talk about him off the court and all of that stuff. But on the court, it's undeniable. He's a great glue guy, great teammate to have, great leader. Every making of a face of the league player, for him to kind of reach that territory again, it would be awesome considering the tough last couple of seasons he's had because of off the court stuff. Hopefully he has everything figured out, but I'm ready for Ja to finally make that first real MVP run and get himself right back in that conversation as not just the future best point guard in the league, but also a future one of the best three players in the entire league as well. Ja Morant has the talent and was on that type of trajectory before everything kind of went down the last couple of seasons. So let's see what the Grizzlies end up being able to do this coming season, but I'm excited about them as a team and obviously about the comeback of Ja Morant.